Hey there, everybody. Kyle Sasser here, and it is everyone's favorite time of the month. That's right. Real estate market statistics times. These statistics are for the Dayton Metro area for May 2024. So if you have a copy of this report, you might notice that the actual report says April 2024. That is because we can only form complete numbers on the previous month. And so what we do is we compare year to year. So we are comparing April 2024 to April 2023. Long-standing viewers of the channel know that I don't usually look at month to month too much. And the reason why is because there is a natural ebb and flow to the real estate cycle during the course of a calendar year. The obvious examples is in the wintertime, not as many people interested in buying houses, not as many people interested in selling their house. And so all the numbers kind of move throughout the year anyway, meaning that month-to-month comparisons are of limited utility, I guess you could say. I have been keeping an eye on month-to-month numbers more the last couple of years just because the market's been a little funky for the last couple of years. But generally speaking, we are comparing April 2024 to April 2023. So we do have to wait until we get through the entire month, and then it takes me a few days to compile all this information together. The 5th of the next month is about as early as I can get reliable data from the MLS. And the reason why is because it just takes agents a few days to update sales, sales data, sales prices, and all that stuff. So I usually give it a few days so all of those things can get updated. The other thing to know is that we have been in a bit of an unusual market the last few years. Obviously, everyone knows that home prices have really, cranked up around the time that we had the COVID pandemic. And since then, since about June of 2022, the market's really been oscillating back and forth, right? So kind of goes with demand. The overarching problem is it's a supply problem. The overarching reason for the price increase has been inventory. There have been fewer homes for sale than there had been in previous periods. So even though the number of home sales is also down, the number of homes that had been being listed were low enough that we were not able to build up a sizable amount of inventory to where prices would stabilize or decline. So we had years and years of pretty steady price increases, which hit like a very accelerated pace during the COVID pandemic. And then we basically kind of been oscillating back and forth on about a rough 6-month cycle, which coincidentally coincides with seasons of the year. Late fall, holiday season, wintertime, and early spring. Most people aren't overly excited about buying or selling a home. They have other things on their mind. And spring, summertime is usually peak seasons. So what we have been seeing is, home prices fluctuating with that shift in demand. So let's dive into these Dayton Metro market statistics. Now, I do want to note that these statistics are for the Dayton Metro. So that's essentially Piqua to Springboro, and then Xenia to West Alexandria, and all points in between. So Beavercreek, Kettering, Dayton, all the neighborhoods in between, Huber Heights, Centerville, all of that is included in this. So total number of closed sales was up 7.3% from 1,007 homes to 1,081 homes. Median sales price was up 2.8% compared to April 2023, from $215,000 to $221,000. Average sales price was up 6.3% from $247,467 to $262,962. Median percent of original list price has held steady at 100%, which is nuts. It's crazy that we have held at that point. Median time to sale has also held at 43 days. My rough rule of thumb here is I do subtract about 30 days from that to arrive at time to contract. So that would put us at 13 days is the midpoint where most homes would be under contract. And that does basically seemingly hold true with my anecdotal, 2 eyes, what I'm seeing going on out there. Total number of new listings is up 17.3% from 1,226 to 1,438 new homes. And total active inventory is up 15.6% from 964 to 1,114. Foreclosures and short sales, or as I like to call it, the doom and gloom segment of the market. Foreclosures were down 7.7%, total of 12, and short sales was up 100%, which sounds terrible until you hear it went from 1 to 2. It's still not the catastrophe over there that many were predicting during COVID. If you were paying attention through that, you might notice that the total number of closed sales was actually less than the number of new listings, and we are building inventory now. So that's a positive sign for buyers. It's definitely a little easier to find something now than it was last year, but it's not overwhelmingly easy. And if you're looking in particularly high demand areas, going up against one or two other offers is still pretty common. Now, median sales price tends to happen over the wintertime. We kind of hit the low point, and we have seen prices, basically kind of rebound back up from that. So the low point was in January at $206,000 for median sales price. We're back up in the 220s now. March we had $229,950. Currently we had $221 so far as the median sales price goes. Median percent of original list price, we are back to 100% of the original asking price. We did dip down through 97.3% over the wintertime, which again, demand over wintertime naturally kind of declines. So as does sales prices and all that stuff. We have steadily climbed back the last few months to 100%. Total number of new listings, again, as expected, coming in the springtime, we have seen the steady march of more and more and more and more listings from the super low point of December, which was 788 homes. January, we had 1,026. February, we had 1,085. March, 1,259. In April, 1,438. If you look at the chart, you will see that is what happens literally every year. Median time to sale has settled at 43 days. Last month, it was at 48. Over the wintertime, it jumped up to 52 days. I usually subtract 30 days from that to arrive at what the likely contract time was. Closed sales by sales price. 100 to 150,000, we had 1.4% fewer homes, total of 146. 150 to 200,000 went up 12.1% to 223. 200 to 250 was up 4.8% to 153. 300 to 400,000 went up 24.8% to 186 homes sold. 400 to 600 went up 7.1% to 106. 600 to a million went up 40% to 42, and there was $5 million houses sold, which was an increase of 150%. Total number of new listings were up across the board, and this is not month to month. This is compared to last year. So we have actually had more houses listed in April 2024 than we did compared to 2023. And same thing with closed sales. We had, by and large, more homes sold this year compared to last. And they're kind of going lockstep a little bit there. So 150 to 200,000 was up 22.5%, 245 new listings. 200 to 250,000 was up 20.3% to 190. 250 to 300,000 was up 27.4% to 200. 300 to 400,000 was up 35.2% to 265. And a million or more was up 133.3%, total of 14. Total inventory is also up unless you are in the 1 million or more category, which dropped 10.3%, total of 26 homes. The under $50,000 mark, which dropped 12.5% to 42. 500 to 100,000 dropped 35.9% to 84. But everything else has been up. So 200 to 250 climbed 21.8%, total of 95 homes to choose from. 250 to 300 climbed 22.9% to 129. 300 to 400,000 went up 31.3% to 193. And 600 went up 41.1% to 199. And 600,000 to 1 million went up 63%. Total of 132 homes to choose from. So those are the Dayton real estate statistics for May 2024. Now, if you remember back to your math class, you might remember average or median being two different things. And then there's also mean, median, and mode. I believe mean is equivalent to average, but we're not gonna dive into that. Average. Most people know how to calculate an average. You take the price of, let's say, 5 homes. You take those purchase prices. You add up all of those prices, you divide it by 5, that gives you the average price. Median home price is a little bit different. What a median price is it is the point at which there's an equal number of homes for sale with a price point higher and lower. So it is more of the midpoint of the market where there's an equal number of more expensive houses and an equal number of lower priced houses. Typically, I pay more attention to the median home price because averages do tend to get pulled pretty hard if there is a sizable change in the number of very expensive or very inexpensive houses that sell in any particular period. That said, since total sales is down pretty significantly the median does move around more than it would usually, whenever we had multiple thousands of homes for sale. So yeah, but typically, even with that, I do still pay more attention to median home price versus average, just because it is more of a balanced price, I guess you could say, as much as one can be. So what do we make of all these numbers? What is the market shaping up to? Dayton is a little unusual in that most of the rest of the country is in a bit of a slowdown. Inventory in many other sections of the country, and especially Florida, where I'm also licensed, inventory there has gone up 50% or even doubled in the case of like Pinellas County. Meanwhile, demand has returned as expected, but they've also set new record home prices. Here we have a little bit different setup. We have a very few amount of homes for sale. We haven't had a large number of homes come up on the market, even though we are definitely in the spring. And I am curious to see what next month's numbers are going to look like. But the thing is we are in peak buying season. This is really when the influx of buyers really comes in, and it would take a phenomenal number of new listings to offset the buyer demand that we're anticipating here. So if you gave me $100 and asked me, do I want to bet on prices going up this year, or do I want to put my money on prices going down? I'm definitely putting my money on prices are probably going to be higher at the end of summertime than they are now. And we're also going to have more than likely fewer homes for sale. And it's a simple supply demand thing. I know that I have had a few more listing calls than I have, but compared to what it was like 2-3 years ago, there's not a lot of new listings that are going up for sale. And there's also, believe it or not, there's not a lot of new construction rolling around either. We've only really recovered to mid to late 1990s numbers so far as new home starts, because builders really took a beating after the Great Recession. Like 2007, number of new home starts dropped by like 80%, and it was a very slow recovery, and we're still not all the way back. So, and the other piece is houses take time. Like if you're building a new house, it takes a year to do that. If you're thinking about selling a house, it takes, a month or 2 or 3 to get that house ready for sale. So it's not something like, say, PlayStation or Xbox or whatever the hot toy is, where you can just run the production line for a little bit longer and pump them out. All of this stuff takes a lot of time and effort to come to market. So again, so far as our setup goes, more than likely home prices are going to be higher as we get through the summertime. It's still going to be a phenomenal time to get a price for a home. If you're thinking about selling it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad time to buy, because, with that few homes, it's not like you can rent and 3 months later, the houses are going to be priced a lot less. The only time that we're going to have a significant price decline is when the total number of homes vastly outweighs the number of homes that are being purchased. That is the only time that we're going to have homes have a significant price decline. And that takes a very long time to develop. And we're not even anywhere close to that. So, and you still have to live somewhere. So you're either paying rent or you're owning a house. Like those are, you could live at home, I suppose, with the parents. But if you're living out on your own, you're either renting and that money is just, gone, or you're owning a home. And trust me, it's not a fun decision to make, because I bought this house in peak market times. And there's about 6 months where I thought that, we were going to be upside down on this house. But market recovers, as it always does. And, now home prices are going up again. So if you've been thinking about buying, the good news is there's more homes to choose from than there has been for the last year or two. The bad news is home prices are going to continue to go up, and probably for the foreseeable future. So, it's one of those things where if you're wanting to own a house, it's usually the right time to buy a home is when you think. The main thing to really know about buying a home is there's never a clear point where it's a great idea to buy a home. In retrospect, you can 100% pick out the times that you're like, oh, you bought a house then. That's brilliant. That's about the best setup you can do. There's no way to predict it in the moment. And I'll give an example. So, I bought my first house in 2013. And looking back on that, that is a brilliant decision. When I bought it, I can tell you that everyone was telling me that I was absolutely stupid, because prices had been dropping on every house for years by that point, and that it was stupid to buy a house because prices are just going to keep going down to zero and they're never going to recover. So it's one of those things, like buying a house is very much you don't try to time the market. It's more of you get on the boat and the boat takes you where the rest of the market goes. It's impossible to time. But the reason you still get on the ride is because you do get the net benefit, as the market increases and decreases. And the one truth in real estate is that, and the one pretty clear thing in real estate is, if you're looking at like 1 or 2 years, it's very hard to predict. However, if you extend that timeline out to 10 or 30 years, it becomes very clear that buying is the more cost-effective solution versus continuing to rent. That is pretty indisputable. So the too long didn't read here is basically, we don't have a lot of houses. We still have a very good number of buyers. There's more houses to choose from, but there's so few homes that prices do continue to increase, and they're likely continue to increase throughout the summertime here. So that's basically the read on the Dayton Metro real estate market for May 2024. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Kyle Sasser. I do one of these reports each and every month. If you would like a copy of this report, there is a link down below. Take you to the website. You can sign up, download this copy of the report, and you also get all subsequent reports and videos about the Dayton real estate markets. If you would like help finding your own place in the Dayton Metro, I would love to help you out. I cover a wide geographical area, so don't be afraid. Please give me a call. Phone number is 937-907-6777. It's also a link to contact me in the description down below. You can book a chat at the time that works best for you. I'd love to speak with you. Once again, my name is Kyle Sasser. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.